The full scale of the Europe floods catastrophe becomes clearer. At least 100 dead, over 1,000 missing. In Germany, whole villages have been swept away by the waters, with leaders stunned by the devastation left in its wake. But there could be more to come. While in Belgium, the search continues for survivors as waters just keep on rising. We'll have the latest. Also tonight, COVID cases hit 50,000 a day, the highest level since mid-January. A heat wave's on the way this weekend, but we're being told to keep cool and warned to be cautious. And there's just a week to go till the Olympics finally begin, so we've had a catch-up with Team GB.
We just want to kind of put smiles on people's faces. We know we can't fill the stadiums like they'd hoped, but maybe if they can get it on TV, we can bring an exciting, a fun and an enjoyable game.
This is the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Good evening. A clearer picture emerged today of the death and destruction caused by the catastrophic flooding in Germany, Belgium and other parts of Western Europe. 120 people are now confirmed to have died, but hundreds more are still missing or unaccounted for. In some areas, 3 months' worth of rain fell in just 24 hours, causing rivers to burst their banks and prompted calls for urgent action on climate change. Here's our Europe editor, James Mates, on the unfolding tragedy.
If you wondered how these floods could have taken quite so many lives, look at these pictures. The town of Erftstadt-Blessem, just to the west of Cologne, where the waters ripped through a gravel pit and then tore away all the land around it. Where once there was a footpath and cycleway, now a cliff edge into the turbid waters below. If you were in the wrong place at the wrong time here, you stood no chance. As the water level has subsided a little, this is just the most dramatic evidence of what nature can do when driven to extremes. For more than 50 hours it rained here on land that was already sodden. No amount of preparation could have contained it.
Europe on the whole is prepared, but when you get extreme events such as what we've seen, 2 months worth of rainfall in 2 days, it's very, very difficult to cope.
In the historic city of Koblenz, where one great river, the Moselle, joins another, the Rhine, dozens are still missing. The waters still stretch as far as the eye can see. The land here is flat, the rivers are large, floods do happen, but not like this. Chancellor Angela Merkel has seemed visibly shocked by what's hit her country. I grieve for those who've lost their lives in this disaster, she said. We still don't know the number, but it will be many. Some in the basements of their homes, some as firefighters were trying to bring others to safety. And to their loved ones, my deepest sympathies. Much of the water has now moved on to Belgium. This is the river Meuse that runs through the Belgian city of Liège. It is hovering centimetres below flood level for now, and not even the sandbags are going to make much difference. The trees tell you how far the river is from its normal course and how deep the water is now. The Netherlands too is on the edge. They know a thing or two about managing water here, but the scene in the eastern town of Roermond shows that even they are struggling. There are fears a local dike may soon be breached by unimaginable quantities of water that are still a long way from the sea. James Mates, ITV News.
As James said, floods aren't uncommon in the region, but nothing on this scale has happened for decades. Experts say it was triggered by a low-pressure vortex circling over Western Europe. It caused 6 inches of rain in just 24 hours, causing the River Aire in Germany to burst its banks. The River Rhine and the River Meuse, which runs through Belgium and the Netherlands, also overflowed. Well, Lucy Hoff is in the Belgian city of Liège tonight. Lucy, how serious is the situation there?
I think it really can't be underestimated, Charlene. I mean, people living here have been able to return back to their homes today to find all but in complete destruction. I've just been talking to one man who was trapped in the upper floors of his house for 48 hours without any food, without any clean water, with huge tides coming through the village. Emergency services have now been able to access the majority of people, but tragically, the death toll in this region alone has risen to 20 and dozens are still missing. You can see the destruction around me. Houses that have been brought to near collapse. There are overturned cars on many of the roads here and mass power outages. It's estimated that more than 20,000 people are currently without power in this region, which has severely hampered the search and rescue operation, given that there are still those missing individuals. So the rescue operation continuing, but here in this village, it really is about assessing what can be salvaged from the damage. People here, as you say, are used to flooding, but they have never seen anything on this scale.
But the problem, Lucy, is that this possibly isn't over. There could be worse to come, right?
Yeah, as we heard there from James, the River Meuse, which runs through the city of Liège, is showing worrying signs at being almost at its limit. It is inches below bursting through its banks, and certainly the residents in that city and in the surrounding areas. A village just on the border with the Netherlands, a bit further east from where we are now, has been told to stay on high alert there, where the river seems to be almost bursting its banks. The bad rainfall, we're told, is moving towards the Netherlands, but it's looking like a very difficult weekend ahead.
OK, Lucy, thanks very much. Here, ministers insist it's still safe to lift almost all restrictions in England from Monday, despite daily cases passing 50,000 for the first time since mid-January. It followed warnings from England's chief medical officer, Chris Whitty, that numbers being treated in hospital could quickly reach scary levels, and a reminder from him that the pandemic is far from over. In the past 24 hours, there have been 51,870 new UK infections. That's the highest daily figure since the 11th of January. And there have been 49 further deaths. That's up almost 60%. And there have been 717 more patients admitted to hospital, a rise of 43%. Here's our political correspondent, Libby Vina, on the new COVID concerns.
It's not over yet, not even close. The free testing kits being handed out in this market, a sign that the virus is once again spreading rapidly. The chief medical officer warning a spike in hospital cases could mean new restrictions are needed.
It doesn't take many doublings till we're in actually quite scary numbers again. And of course, for every individual person in hospital, this is potentially very dangerous, and there will be people who die or have lifelong effects from this. But I don't think we should underestimate the fact that we could get into trouble again surprisingly fast. If it looks as if things are not topping out, we do have to look again and see where we think things are going.
In England, 1 in every 95 people has the virus. That's up from 1 in 160 a week ago. Across the UK, hospital admissions are rising too. On average, just under 600 people a day are being admitted, although that's far fewer than the daily rate of 2,200 at the same stage of the last wave over Christmas. COVID patients had all but disappeared from the wards at this Sunderland hospital. Now they're arriving again, along with many hundreds seeking treatment for other illnesses. Doctors say the pressures are immense.
We've gone from 2 patients in the last month to 84 patients, and that's on the background of increasing number of non-COVID patients. So our emergency departments have been seeing on occasions up to 900 patients between them, 500's the norms. And I think the staffing challenges are also causing issues. I think it's that perfect storm is the way I would describe it.
So is it really safe for everything in England to open up on Monday?
It is safe to open up on Monday, but we do need to ensure that people take personal responsibility for the measures. So what the government is saying is we're taking away the legal restrictions.
But at this pub in South London, they say it's too soon to abandon safety measures with case numbers soaring.
I mean, we're very sceptical. We're taking a more cautious approach. We're going to keep it exactly the same rules that we have been doing. The table service, the hand sanitisers, the screens. We're going to keep everything the same until we start seeing case numbers come down.
The worry is not everyone will take such a cautious approach when it's no longer the law. The risk for the Prime Minister is that Chris Whitty is right and he is wrong in his claim that the rise in infections, the link with increased serious cases in hospitals, has actually been severed. Certainly public health officials abroad are looking on with some surprise as to what's happening here. An advisor to the New Zealand government saying he was astounded that Britain had abandoned basic public health principles. The big question tonight is how much more pressure the NHS can withstand.
Libby, thank you. As cases rise, organisations and businesses warned it's impossible to operate properly with the number of workers being told to isolate. It's affecting everything from hospitals, some of which have major staff shortages, to rubbish collections. And that's increasing calls for the NHS COVID app to be changed to stop the chaos. Here's Ben Chapman.
It's the thing every small business is now dreading. Not a buzz, but a ping from the Test and Trace app, which has forced all but one of the barbers at this shop into isolation, costing the business over £1,000 a day.
They've had their PCRs test negative, they've come back with a flow test negative. There does feel like a little bit of an overkill. Why are we locking them indoors when every government standard of testing has come back negative?
And it's hitting you hard in the meantime?
Yeah, hugely.
Some hospitals are being hit hard too. At Birmingham Women's, 150 staff are at home. Its chief executive tweeting, 36 babies born in one day yesterday. With the number of NHS staff in isolation, it's a genuine miracle. It's led some medical leaders to call for health workers to be exempt.
If we can clearly demonstrate as much as we can a person isn't infectious, having had a negative PCR test, then to prevent harm, then the NHS should be allowed to bring those staff back to work.
Other services are also starting to suffer. 15% of bin collections from this Birmingham depot have now been affected. In this street, rubbish has been piling up since Tuesday. Residents are worried if the app forces more workers to isolate.
If it keeps on doing this, then what are the implications for next week? Will the rubbish get collected next week? Right now it is getting quite smelly, and with this hot weather that can only get worse.
The government maintains the app is one of the best tools it has to combat the virus, but some experts say it was designed for a period where fewer people were mixing.
The problem with the app, it's quite sensitive, and as more and more people have started downloading the app, the biggest challenge is the number of people using it creates the number of false positives to go up.
Business groups are calling for the whole system to be overhauled to prevent millions being forced to stay at home just as restrictions are being lifted. Ben Chapman, ITV News, Birmingham.
3 people have died in a 6-vehicle crash on the A1M in County Durham. It happened last night involving 2 lorries and 4 cars. The driver of one lorry has been arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving. Well, Johnny Blair is at the scene for us tonight. Johnny, what more do we know?
Well, part of the A1 behind me, stretching back between 2 junctions, has been closed all day as a major investigation gathers pace. It was yesterday evening, just a few hundred yards from here, about 5 miles south from the city of Durham, when this crash happened. 3 people were pronounced dead at the scene, a man and a woman from one car and a man from another. Several others were injured and taken to hospital. Now, people living nearby described to me hearing sirens, seeing helicopters up above, and one reported seeing smoke billowing up into the sky. The road has remained closed since. That is so specialist teams can have time and space to see if they can uncover any clues to reveal what may have happened, and also to carefully remove those vehicles involved. Police have described this as a harrowing incident, not only, of course, for the relatives of those involved, but also for those emergency services workers who were dealing with the aftermath on the ground.
Johnny, thank you. Still to come on the ITV Evening News.
I remember doing it when I was a little girl, but they were smaller paddling pools.
How to stay cool in the heat with a blistering weekend ahead. And is Team GB a week away from Olympic glory? The athletes heading to Tokyo hoping to bring some stuff back to the nation. Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. It feels like only yesterday we were moaning about the wet start to the summer, but good news, a heat wave's on its way. But it's caveated with warnings about safety. It's going to hit 32 degrees Celsius, that's 90 degrees Fahrenheit on Sunday. And Public Health England is concerned vulnerable people will be at risk. Well, Rebecca Barry is in Whitstable for us tonight. Rebecca.
Yes, well, many will have been feeling in need of a metaphorical ray of sunshine recently. Now they've got the real thing. And while this will be a very welcome sight for many as we head into the weekend and the school summer holidays, there are warnings in place for the elderly and the very young to take care in the heat. Hard to believe, isn't it, that just days ago, heavy rain caused flooding in parts of southern England. Now just look at it. On the beach in Whitstable, they're already making the most of the rising temperatures. And with sunshine forecast all weekend, it's hoped the heat will crank up seaside spending here. At the alfresco Harbour Garden Cafe, clear skies mean full tables.
We're so dependent on the weather. We employ upwards of 30 people and they're all dependent on us really to be able to provide the customers and provide the money. And yeah, so a good weather weekend is absolutely crucial.
While many will welcome the warm weather with the added benefit that being out in the fresh air reduces the transmission of coronavirus, there are serious health risks associated with the heat. Public Health England has issued a warning with the elderly among those most at risk.
Can I interest any of you in a lolly?
At the Tralee Rest Home, they're doing all they can to ensure residents stay cool and safe.
Most of the residents here have dementia, different varying degrees of dementia, so they can't tell us if they're too hot. Lots and lots of ice lollies and cold drinks, making sure that the residents don't get dehydrated because that can affect their medication usage.
Do you fancy going into the paddling pool, Joan?
Oh my goodness, yes. No.
But for some, this is bringing back happy memories.
There we go.
Well, actually, I remember doing it when I was a little girl, but they were smaller paddling pools.
Sunday could be the hottest day of the year with high temperatures until Tuesday. If you're not isolating and you're not vulnerable, enjoy it. Rebecca Barry, ITV News, Whitstable.
PC Wayne Couzens has been sacked from the Metropolitan Police after being convicted of the murder, rape and kidnap of Sarah Everard. Couzens pleaded guilty to the crimes last week. He'd been suspended from the force since his arrest. Police in England and Wales recorded a new high in racially and religiously aggravated offences in 2020, with cases having more than doubled since 2013. Forces say the impact of lockdown and Black Lives Matter marches both led to an increase in offences. And officers say they still haven't found the driver of a stolen car which made a dramatic escape by driving down a railway track in Hertfordshire. Social media footage showed the black vehicle on a residential road before driving past the platform. With just a week until the start of the Tokyo Olympics, the head of Team GB has told ITV News that despite the challenges, he's very hopeful of success. Chef de mission Mark England says the squad is full of high achievers and they're aiming for 45 medals, while the athletes themselves are hoping some success will bring a smile to fans back home. Neil Connery reports on the hope of more Olympic glory ahead.
For any athlete, Olympic success is the dream. For Team GB, there's been plenty of golden moments in recent years. But with all eyes soon on Tokyo for the games of the 32nd Olympiad, what will these COVID Olympics mean for those aiming to follow the greats? With 1 week to go, Team GB continue to arrive in Japan. The badminton squad the latest to touch down. Despite all the challenges COVID has brought, Team GB have high hopes they can deliver.
You know, we'll be medal competitive across a significant number of events. There is a medal target of over 45 medals, and we'll see how we get on with that. But this is a very, very high-performing team.
But with Japan experiencing a surge of COVID cases, these Olympics will be held under a state of emergency without spectators. Many have questioned the wisdom of going ahead. But Team GB's athletes say they've received a warm welcome in their preparations here.
We just don't want to kind of upset anyone by being here. We just want to kind of put smiles on people's faces. And we know we can't fill the stadiums like they'd hoped, but maybe if they can get it on TV, we can bring an exciting and fun and enjoyable games and make sure we all keep each other safe as athletes so that there's no more strain on this country.
First and third for Great Britain.
Great Britain's Rebecca Adlington won 2 golds in 2008 in Beijing. She says these games may be like no other before, but athletes must stay focused.
We've never experienced anything like this. So again, it's really hard to say what's going to work, what's not going to work. I think it's going to be one of those, they've got to be really on the ball when it comes to restrictions, because there's more to lose. If they test positive now over the next time, it's going to be really obviously detrimental.
The Olympic motto is faster, higher, stronger. This week, the IOC membership will decide whether to add the word together to that motto. Overcoming the challenges of these games will need that spirit more than ever. Neil Connery, ITV News.
And finally tonight, if dolphins had their own Olympics, this could be a contender for a gold medal. This is thought to be one of the highest dolphin jumps ever recorded off the Sussex coast. There have been a number of sightings this year, which marine biologists say is a consequence of warmer seas caused by climate change. That's it. Raggy's here at 10:20, but for me and everybody here, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.